Hello and welcome to AmateurLogic.tv. This is episode 10. I'm Jim.
I'm George, and Tommy will be joining us from Missouri over Echolink a little later in the show.
We're here in Old Trace Park today, shooting outdoors. It's a nice, beautiful, warm fall day here in Mississippi. George, why don't you tell our viewers what we're doing here and what we're going to take a look at?
Well, this is one of our favorite testing grounds out here. You may remember episode 4 when we tested the cantenna that we'd built in episode 3. This is a park that I was at during that shoot. And so we came out here again because we wanted to bring the cantenna back out for another spin, but this time we wanted to add a little more metal to the mix.
Yeah, it's kind of like the heavy metal episode.
Well, I guess you could call it that. But this time we brought a little extra with us.
As Tim the Toolman Taylor would say, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, we have this RCA DirecTV dish standing in for Tommy here between us. Anyway, we're going to put the cantenna on this and see what kind of difference it makes. I think you might be surprised. And now, through the magic of Echolink, we're going to go to Tommy in Missouri and see what he's got for us this month.
Tommy, is it as windy up there as it is here?
No, it's not too windy right now, Jim. It was yesterday. We generally get the bad weather about a day before you guys do, so expect it to kind of cool off a little bit tomorrow if it's the case like it normally is. This month I'm going to have some interesting stuff on photo tips. As I mentioned in the last episode, we had a few requests, so I'm going to take care of one of those this month, and we're going to do some nighttime photography and show you some of the pitfalls and things to watch out for that, and learn that it's not exactly an exact science. So we'll give you a little bit of an education in how to make some pretty neat pictures at nighttime.
Oh, okay. Does that mean we're going to see some of those like 2-mile-long cartel light photos?
You'll have to watch the episode to see what it is. I think you'll kind of think it's kind of neat. I know I do.
Well, it sounds like he's going to keep us in suspense, Jim. Let's just go ahead and watch it.
Shut up, fool!
Hi, I'm Tommy. Welcome to another episode of Photo Tips. This month we're going to take a viewer request for some long exposures. It's Halloween, or they're around Halloween. You'll probably be actually viewing this in November. Nevertheless, we've still got the Halloween seasonal twist. We're going to take some long exposures at night here in the cemetery, and trust me, it's very, very dark here after the sun goes down. And we're going to see what we can come up with on that. Also, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to try some long exposures of the stars, and you can actually see the rotation of the Earth in the star patterns. It's pretty interesting, and we'll cover a few pros and cons, pitfalls, things to watch out for when doing long exposures, and also some necessary equipment. Speaking of equipment, one thing that you're going to need is a camera that can do long exposures. Most of them have a bulb setting, and that's what you'll need to use to lock the shutter open for over 30 seconds, which is the default, the longest setting most cameras have. The ones that we're going to fool with are going to be in the minutes area. So you're going to need a cable release. Cable release basically hooks onto your camera, and it's either mechanical or electronic depending on your type of camera. But you can lock it down and time your exposures using a watch or some timing device and judge your exposures like that. Cable releases come in several varieties. The one that we've got here is mechanical. You push the plunger down and turn the set screw to hold it down. When you get finished, just release the set screw. And like I said, you'll have to do some manual timings to get your exposures right. Well, let's take a look at the samples that we're taking here and let's discuss them and see what we can do. Okay, we've got several samples I took here. They were all taken on the tripod with the camera in the same direction. You can see this is a 2-minute exposure 119.8 seconds, so that's pretty well 2 minutes. I timed that with my watch. I was pretty lucky to get it that close. The length of that exposure was basically some kind of educated guesswork from doing this in the past. There's really not a scientific method in determining how long of an exposure that you should take. Light meters generally don't read into the minutes. So I basically start around 2 minutes, depending on the brightness of the image, and then kind of bracket from there. Bracket means, decrement or increment your exposure based on kind of previewing in the LCD of the camera when you get finished with your exposure. I lucked up pretty close on the 2 minute. It looks pretty pleasing. This was in the cemetery. It goes along with our Halloween theme for the October or the fall months. And anyway, it was so dark in there I could barely see how to walk between the gravestones without tripping. There was a small street light way off in the distance to the left, and that's why you're seeing the strong shadows going from left to right. It was quite a distance off, and the light was very weak. I tried to find a cemetery around here with no street lights whatsoever, but that's almost impossible to find, so this was the best I could do. When you're taking these long exposures, there's a couple of pitfalls to watch out for. One of them is color shift. You have that same problem if you take long exposures with film or with digital. I think with film it's a lot harder to compensate for. I shot these images with RAW like I always do, and that allowed me to tweak the color balance, the white balance on the image, to get it more like what I think it should have looked like. The other downfall is sensor noise. When you take a long exposure, some of the pixels in there are stronger or weak. I'm not sure exactly which, but they make real hot spots in the picture, and they show up as colored blotches, which you can see here. There's some blue and red ones, and they're really distracting and make the picture almost unusable, in my opinion. So what I did was turned on long exposure noise reduction. If you look up here at the top, you can see it's off on this image. Let's go back and take a look at the other one again, and you can see it's on. And how that really works is it takes the 2 minute exposure to get the image that you want, and then the camera is actually busy for another 2 minutes taking another picture with the shutter closed. And what that does is it gets these hot pixels, because we took the image of the same length of time. It takes a black picture with these exact same pattern of hot pixels, and then it'll subtract those against the real image that you took, and you end up with this. So pretty ingenious method, really. It's not totally flawless, because if you look at some of these, you'll see some dark spots in the image. This would actually print up pretty nicely, whereas the other one wouldn't. Those would show up like a sore thumb, and the dark spots would be barely noticeable. I'm going to try one other technique. I wanted to do the typical stereotype long exposure of the tail lights and the traffic, but the weather's been very unpredictable around here, and I did not get a chance to do that. I did try one other long exposure technique, which I think was pretty interesting, and I took this one. This is a 5 minute exposure of the sky, and we can see the stars, the Earth's rotation in the stars. Actually, that evening there was supposed to be a meteor shower, and while I didn't see one with my naked eye, I apparently caught one in my exposure, because you can see the streak going against the way the rotation is in the sky. So I'm pretty sure that would have been one of the meteors from the meteor shower that was supposed to be around that evening. I thought that was pretty neat. This 5 minute exposure, it was pitch black out there, and this tree, I didn't even see it in the viewfinder actually when I was pointing the viewfinder up to the sky to take the image. So that kind of gives you an idea of some things that you could see. It's a lot of fun to take those long exposures like that, and you get some really neat or eerie results depending on the subject matter. It's pretty fun. Long exposures are also a lot of fun at night, and people use them typically on water scenes to make the water look almost misty or real smooth, and it's a pretty neat effect. And we may do some of those in a later date. I thought this was a pretty neat image. We've got some of both of those techniques together. We've got the cemetery down here lit up, but we also have the stars in the sky. And if I could have found a place just a little bit darker, this would have been more exaggerated. I may try to get around and find one different cemetery. Since I'm kind of new to this area, I've had a limited selection to choose from. But anyway, I think you'd agree that's a pretty interesting result. Well, as you can see, that's some pretty dramatic images, especially the graveyard ones. I think that's really awesome. When I took those pictures here, you could hardly see at all how to even walk into the place. After looking at the images, it almost looks like it was lit up. Like I said, there was a small street light way out over in the distance over there, and that was pretty much the only light source. It just got amplified by using the over 2-minute exposure. Go out and give those a try, and I think you'll find it a lot of fun. As always, if you have any other suggestions for photo tips in upcoming episodes, give me an email, tmartin@amateurlogic.tv, and I'll do my best to get them on. Have any questions or comments about this episode, same address. I'll see you next month on Photo Tips. Thanks.
Wow, Tommy, that long exposure stuff is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You have to watch out for noise on your digital cameras. That's why we use the long exposure noise reduction built in, and it takes care of a good bit of that. The rest of it you can tweak out with your software.
Well, Tommy, the Star Trails is a new thing to me. I guess I really hadn't paid attention, but I sure didn't know you could do that kind of thing yourself.
Yeah, it's not something that just the everyday guy does, but I find it kind of fascinating. Hopefully, a few of the viewers will as well. I know there are a lot of geeks in a friendly term out there, just like myself. So hopefully, they'll like some of the same things I did.
All right, well, it's great to talk with you again, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next month.
Yeah, next month. What you going to have for us? I know you're preparing for that frozen north winter. It's at least frozen north to us down here in Mississippi.
Well, next month's episode's going to be a surprise to both of us. I'm running a little bit low on ideas for photo tips, so keep the suggestions coming in. Send them to my email address at tmartin@amateurlogic.tv.
Yeah, it's good to be able to communicate with Tommy, through the radio still, even though he's a long ways away.
Yeah, amateur radio coming through when nothing else will.
Yep.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Well, Jim, what do you got for us in this episode?
Okay, we're going to go back to capacitor building, high voltage capacitor building. You probably recall the pudding cup capacitor scenario from episode 8. Well, today we're going to wind that up, part 2, and we'll show you what happens when you pour a bunch of Bondo into pudding cups and stick them all together.
Sounds sticky. Let's look at it.
Okay, here you go. Hello, sports fans, and welcome back. This is part 2 of how to build a high voltage pudding cup capacitor, wherein we've taken pudding cups, chocolate pudding actually, and constructed our own high voltage capacitor, at least about 75% of the way complete. How did we do that? Let's review. In part 1, we took pudding cups and we wrapped them in aluminum foil. We squeezed that as tightly as we could with the aid of another pudding cup and got as many wrinkles out as possible. On the bottom then, we put a piece of our aluminum foil tape, which by the way is really good stuff. Go get you some aluminum foil tape today. You can use it for making antennas and all sorts of good stuff. Pick it up at Home Depot, just like you can all this stuff. we put a piece of our aluminum foil tape across the bottom so that that would be covered with aluminum. On the inside, we taped our tab. You see this long, tall thing sticking up? We just took some aluminum foil and folded it up and made this strip out of. And we just held it in here and taped it in. Then, of course, we put it on our pudding cup and pressed and pressed and pressed to make it, fit nice and look cool. And what's the purpose of all that? That's what we're going to feed the electricity down. It's going to be high. The reason it's so long is it needs to be tall to be above the stack of our pudding cups, because, we're going to stack them. The other pudding cup here, you see here are both the tabs. You would not want to stack them where the two tabs were aligned, at least not these two cups. You want alternating cups to be stacked with their tabs opposite each other. Very important, absolutely crucial that the pudding cups be stacked that way. Here's the next one. Would you stack it where the tab is over on this side? No, you stack it where the tab is over on this side. And finally, here's the last one. And he stacks with his tab aligned to the opposite side. So now, what you've got, and let me zoom out a little bit so you can tell for sure, is you've got 4 pudding cups stacked. 2 of the tabs alternate to this side, and 2 tabs alternate to this side. And we put just a clear plastic cup on the bottom to cover the bottom one. For part 2, we're going to take our pudding cup cap and we're going to fill it with Bondo, this good stuff. Why is that? Well, Bondo's made out of polystyrene, so it's a good dielectric. That is to say, it's something good to put between our pudding cups. And the mass that it will give the capacitor will help the capacitor not to change its value with the changing seasons or with the changing environmental temperature. And that's a plus. That's a benefit. Okay, let's finish making our high voltage capacitor. Look at this. All right. We're about to set one of our pudding cups inside another. And I hope it's enough to make it overflow. We have overflow. Making sure that we alternate the tabs, so this tab goes on the other side. And I was surprised with the first one that I did. It's hard. Right here, man, I guess since they fit so well, it's hard to push one in and get it to push out the contents. Okay, the stuff's starting to get warm. The chemical process between the hardener and the filler is just that. It's a chemical reaction. And heat is one of the byproducts of the chemical reaction. So be careful that you do not mix too much hardener in your filler and potentially or possibly burn up your pudding cup or cups. Woohoo! Bottom cup is quite warm now, quite warm. Woohoo! Bottom cup is hot. It's another day. We've poured our Bondo, we've let it sit, we've let it dry. It's actually been about 4 days. I was surprised. It took a really long time for the Bondo to dry. It did get really hot in curing. I don't know if I put too much or too little hardener. I haven't gone back and studied up on the chemistry and specifics of that. But it didn't get hot enough to burn or melt the plastic cups, so I was pleased. Relieved, actually. So yeah, it did take several days, especially for the mass quantity in the top cup to dry. But now it's cured, it's dry, and essentially we're through with our homebrew high voltage capacitor. Now all that lacks and remains to be done is a little testing to see what value our capacitor is giving or measuring. Let's see if I can get you a good shot here of the capacitor and what it looks like in its final homebrew glory. That's what the Bondo looks like. It's actually pretty messy, as you can see on the sides, but that can all be cleaned up. You know, stray capacitance is everywhere, and you can pick it up right out of the air. So we'll try to combat that, as it were, by making our leads shorter and then clamping down on them. There we go. Now we'll do a little zooming in so you can get a look at the meter. And here you can see the value that we're getting as a result, as a measurement. And you can see it is changing by a few picofarads, but essentially it's measuring right around 370 picofarads of capacitance. The nice thing about our capacitor is that you can put a lot of voltage through the capacitor at that measurement. There you have it. High voltage pudding cup capacitor home brewing at its finest.
Well, Jim, I know Rob will be proud to see this finish up on the capacitor.
Yes, Rob was one of the viewers who wrote in an email and said he was really interested in seeing part 2 come to fruition.
In several ways, he said that. There it is, Rob.
Yeah.
So, Jim, yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I saw that you did measuring on it all. Is this the value that you had targeted? I mean, did it come in as you thought it would?
It actually did not come in as I thought it would, but it actually is the value that I needed for ultimately for my project.
Good.
Actually, I guess I said that wrong. It is the value I was targeting. It's not what I was expecting, but it is the value I was targeting. I didn't expect it to come in as I was
folks,
targeting.
The problem is that he hasn't actually finished this yet, so we have no idea whether it came in right or not.
It actually is finished, and we do have our measurements.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we do have our measurements, but it just isn't tested yet.
Okay, so how are you going to test the capacitor?
Well, that is a slight problem. I don't have a high voltage source, no high pot or anything, so really the only way I have of testing it is to hooking it up to my antenna, my ham rig, and just trying it.
So hook it up to your rig and burn, baby, burn.
That's it exactly, and hope that you don't burn the rig up.
Yeah.
But we'll see. That was outside the scope of this segment, and I don't know that we'll ever have that in a segment. But perhaps I can at least give a report on it, maybe in a future segment.
Well, it was a cool project, and
Yeah.
it's not something that many folks could use, but the few who need one of those, here's you another option.
There you go. Yeah, big item for ham radio guys that talk on the low bands.
Yep. Well, I guess everybody's been wanting to see what we've got coming up next. This will be our latest incarnation of the Cantenna.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about. I kind of got an idea, but tell me a little bit about exactly what it is that we're doing today.
Well, what we're going to do today is take the Cantenna that we previously built, and I don't remember the episode numbers.
3 or 4, something like that.
I think maybe we built it, in episode 3. And here's the finished product, our active cantenna. Just plug it into the notebook and we're ready to go. And then we tested it out here at this same location.
In 4?
In episode 4.
I seem to remember that.
And we found that we could get about 3 miles all the way across the lake here behind us. And that was pretty good. We probably could have got further too. But you know, we've seen projects on the internet where people have taken DirecTV dishes and added antennas to them and used them for Wi-Fi, and you know, playing pretty good results from that. So we thought we'd take the cantenna and stick it on and just see what difference adding a DirecTV dish to your cantenna makes.
Ooh, it's going to be interesting to see how we do that.
Yeah, now what we're doing here is purely experimental. In other words, we're not, this is not a permanent installation. We're just going to take this and strap it together best we can out here on a windy day, just for proof of concept.
And hope it holds together?
I hope it holds together and the wind doesn't blow it over.
So George and I might be parasailing off. You might see us in a minute holding on to the dish.
Yeah. Sure is windy today. It's going to be hard holding that dish on top of the little tripod we've got.
Yeah.
We're starting to pick up some stuff with that stumbler.
Ooh, let's have a look.
Okay, we're starting to find quite a few
I hear
access points. But I guess the best looking signal we got is this guy. Let's take the cantenna and see if we can peek it on him. We're panning through, trying to get the best signal we can on this guy here. And we're dropping off in signal a little. As a matter of fact, we lost him. So let's pan back in.
I'm going to show folks where we have the cantenna pointed.
Okay. It looks like it's going to be that house right there. On that stumbler, we picked up this guy to be, I would call him approximately 82 or 83 at the best. Let's go to the dish and see what that does.
I guess I could get in a better place.
We'll put the dish here on a handy speaker tripod. We'll remove it off of the camera tripod. And we'll take the cantenna over to the dish.
Where the secret comes in.
Now, as I was saying, this is not going to be left outdoors. I'm hearing other signals. We're trying to just strap this thing on as best we can. This is not permanent. This is strictly for proof of concept. We've already said that. Okay, now actually, I made a little rig for adjusting this with and setting it up. I found a few formulas and all on the internet for say trying to find the focal point of a dish and set it and all that. But on this project, I threw all that out the window. We didn't use anybody else's plans for this. What I did is made me a couple pieces of cardboard and a rig here where I could measure exactly where the old DirecTV feed point was. The old horn sat right here, exactly in the center. So then I made me some marks where I could center up our can here and get it essentially in the same exact place that the DirecTV dish was.
George, I hear that it's already making a difference. I hear many more targets popping in on NetStumbler.
Yeah, so let's see what's happened since we went to the dish. Our signal has dropped. Do you believe that, Jim?
Believe that there's probably something wrong with it if it did.
Well, let's spin the dish a little bit and see if we can peak it up some.
Okay. I hear some other signals popping in.
I have more players coming to the party here. All right, we're going to pan the dish. The first thing I found when I began experimenting with the dish is it's much more critical what direction you're turning. The antenna is real wide compared to the dish. And we will actually be able to beat that.
You're pointing straight into the camera now, George.
Yeah. Okay, we'll loosen up a couple of the nuts here on the dish where we can do a little adjustment to the elevation. Here comes the bride, y'all. Maybe we should mention there is a wedding going on somewhere here in the park behind us.
Yeah, outdoor wedding. They picked a pretty good day for it. It is a little windy.
All right, as we begin tilting down, the signal is increasing.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have to tilt down. Most of our viewers, George, may not be aware that when shooting on a level plane, the dish is actually pointed down. When shooting downhill as we are, it's pointed even further down and may look like we're pointing straight into the ground, but due to the fact that it is an offset fed satellite dish, it is actually focusing radio waves from directly parallel to the horizon when it's pointed down.
So this looks like the strongest signal that we found right now. And we can make some additional tweaks to this by doing a little pan.
And there's a party crasher.
Yep. Ex-boyfriend, I guess.
We couldn't have asked for better material.
We started out with just the antenna alone. Our signal strength was in the neighborhood of, we're going to call it 80, although most of the time it was dropping below that, 82 or so. And when we got out here and we tweaked a little bit on the dish, we found that the signal is much higher here. So we see that we started out in the neighborhood of 80. Then after we made our adjustments, our signal came up so much that we were getting peaks around 70. So that's about a 10 dB gain.
Another
Actually,
10 dB gain.
we were about 82, so it's about 12 dB. This is about the same thing I found at my other test site, which didn't have all the pine trees and the wind.
Which certainly makes a big difference.
Made a big difference. So we're looking at getting 10 to 12 dB gain just by strapping this can on the end of the dish, and it's not strapped on there very well. As a matter of fact, it's even a little crooked there. We could probably increase the signal a little more. And just by doing some spinning of the horn and all. But I did find in my test at home that this wasn't that critical. I mean, it was somewhat, but I could move in to the dish a little and pull out a little. and it didn't seem to be that critical in this application. Is also changing the polarization. Spinning it didn't seem to have as much effect as I would have thought it had. So that's it. That's what happens when you stick a grape juice can on a DirecTV dish and look for Wi-Fi signals.
Wow, George, I tell you what, that is a lot of gain. It may not sound like a lot of gain, but 12 dB in radio terms, that's huge. I can't really think of what kind of perspective we could use or what kind of analogy we could use to give our viewers a perspective on how much gain that actually is.
Well, if you were going to double your signal, how many dB would that be, Jim?
That would be 3 dB, George. 3 dB of gain actually doubles your signal strength.
So we've effectively quadrupled the signal just by putting it on the dish.
That's correct. That would be exactly correct, 4 times.
And I'm not sure that we ever determined the exact gain of the cantenna itself, but we think it's in the 10 to 15 dB range, somewhere
That's
in
right,
there.
as I recall.
So you put the two together and you've got better than 20 dB a gain over what you'd have with just your standard notebook.
So that means you could take your typical 100 milliwatt card and really get a lot out of it or into it.
Yeah, yeah. A little height on that thing, gee. We don't really know how far it would go. We actually have a site about 10 miles that we would like to have tested it out, maybe one day. But
Yeah.
Today we just wanted to have a reference to just see how much gain there was.
That's right.
And I brought a little something along here. We haven't done a website roundup in a while, and we probably won't be returning to that right away. But every now and then you run across something that you think other folks could use, and I ran across something recently.
A little program or?
A little add-on that you can use with virtually any program to create PDF files.
Ooh, well, that's be nice because PDFs are getting more and more popular.
Yeah, you can read them easily enough with Adobe Acrobat, but you can't write them without buying the very expensive Pro version.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hard to produce,
Yep.
at least on a Windows platform.
Yeah. Take a look at this option.
PDF is a de facto standard for electronic documents and forms exchange today, and Qt PDF Writer makes it easy to create professional quality PDF files from almost any printable document. It's free for personal and commercial use. There's no watermarks and no pop-up web advertisements. Qt PDF Writer was selected as one of the 50 best free downloads by a computer shopper. Qt PDF Writer is a free version of commercial PDF creation software. Qt PDF Writer installs itself as a printer subsystem, and this enables virtually any Windows application that can print to create professional quality PDF documents with just a push of a button. Qt PDF Writer requires the PostScript to PDF converter, Ghostscript. It's an interpreter for the PostScript language and the PDF file format. There are links to both of these on the left-hand side of the page, and where you can download Qt PDF and the Ghostscript converter. To test Qt PDF, we'll open a document in Microsoft Word. Now we will print the document, and we'll select Qt PDF Writer from the list of printers. And we'll click OK to print, and Qt PDF prompts us for a file name for the PDF document. Within a few seconds, your PDF file is ready for viewing. If you need to create PDF documents, give the free Qt PDF Writer a try. There's also a professional version available for those who need added features.
Well, there it is, Qt PDF Writer. I use it quite often. I have Acrobat, but it's an older version. And, it's just its own application. But with Qt PDF Writer, you can print a PDF from anything.
I see that. Highly useful under Windows for me, too.
Oh, yeah.
On the Macintosh, which I'm a Macintosh owner and fan, Apple Macintoshes produce PDFs natively. That's built into the operating system. It's not necessary to buy an add-on.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Their whole display system is based print system, display system, is all based on the PDF, what would you call it, paradigm, I guess.
Wow. Well, I guess Adobe's real happy about that.
Yeah, maybe so.
One of the checks in the mail.
Yeah. And so, there you go. We'll see you next time. For Amateur Logic TV, I'm Jim.
I'm George. And for Tommy's proxy,
We'll see you next time.
bye. Well, that's it. And do join us again next month for episode 11 when Jim says.
I don't know what the heck I'm going to say in episode 11.
There, you heard it here first.
Oh.